Hello there. It's been a really volatile start to 2022, with most of the asset classes we invest in actually falling so far this year. Now, if you've just been following the FTSE 100, you might be surprised to hear me say that, because the FTSE 100 is up so far this year. But if we put on screen some of the major asset classes that we can invest in, you can see that actually most of them have gone down. The FTSE's up 1.8%. But the next best performing asset class on that table is actually gilts, which has lost more than 4%. If you're looking at US stocks, they're down 5%. And actually US tech stocks are down almost 10%. And it's not just that the UK is doing better than everything else, and that's why the FTSE's gone up, because if we look at the FTSE 250, which is the 250 biggest stocks outside the top 100, they're down over 7%. And UK small caps, if we look at the AIM market, the alternative investment market, are down 13%. So it has been a really volatile time. So I'll come back to why the FTSE's gone up in a minute, but the reason why all the other asset classes have gone down, or primarily, is actually to do with interest rates. Because inflation is still very high, and we all know about our rising energy bills, etc., then central banks are putting up interest rates, and they may well put them up a lot more aggressively than people had previously thought. And so markets are repricing to try and factor in that possibility. Now, we actually think now markets have done a lot of that process already, that the number of interest rate hikes, for example, that are already priced into markets is quite a lot, and it would be difficult for central banks to go and do more than that. In fact, in our minds, we think it's actually likely they might do slightly less than the market has priced in. And if that's the case, then some of those asset classes should hopefully rally at some point. But we do have that added complication, of course, that there are concerns over tensions with Russia, over the Ukraine, etc. And we don't know where that's going to go, and that can have a big impact on markets. But the reason the FTSE 100 is different, and the reason that's gone up so far this year, is actually partly to do with some of those factors, partly to do with things like energy, which is that they've got the FTSE has a lot of oil and gas in that index. And oil and gas isn't necessarily somewhere we would like to have a lot of money over the long term, because we think it's an industry which has got lots of challenges as we all try and switch to greener forms of energy. But with the oil price going up, with gas prices going up, then BP and Shell, for example, big companies within the FTSE, have done really well. And that's one of the primary reasons, rather, that the FTSE has gone up, but everything else has really struggled. So where do we go from here? Well, as I said, tensions with Russia is very difficult to call, with no idea where that's going to go. But if we put that to one side, I do think inflation will come down towards the end of the year. We are still worried about how it could impact on the economy, but I do think it will come down, and I do think the central banks have already signalled their intention to do something about it, and a lot of that is already factored into market prices. So we've got a volatile period still to come, I think, for the next few weeks at least, but we do remain optimistic that some of those asset classes can do a little bit better as we go through the year. Thanks very much.